Good morning, everybody. I understand this is Michelle and Barack's favorite restaurant, so coming from Pennsylvania, I would just like to thank everybody from Chicago for producing Michelle and Barack. And I'm also dying to know what table they sit at when they come here. I've just been scanning trying to figure that out. Before I begin, I'd also like to, I'm here because of Rochelle and because of Gina Sudigan, who I work with. Not only are they beautiful, hardworking, brilliant, and passionate, what I register the most with them is they have an enormous BS detector. And when you're an entrepreneur, what you scan for every day, and I know this is true for a lot of the people in this room, are people that really, in the end, can tell the truth. That's the hardest piece, and that's what I respond to. So I'd like to thank Gina and Rochelle for allowing me to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I built a $100 million company over the last 22 years, and what its mission and purpose is. So this is a slideshow that was actually developed by my wife, who wrote it, and my 3 girls who did all the pictures. So it started in the 1950s. I was born in '55, so after World War II, but I was young enough that I missed Vietnam, so it was that kind of halo period where meat at the center of the table on Sunday night was a really big deal. And what we represent here today is we're just talking about protein. You have to deal with lots of food. I've been focused on just getting the protein fix in place. And where I started was with my mom and 8 brothers and sisters. Sunday night we were lucky enough to have roast beef. So I grew up with a deep sense of family, a deep sense of a mom being home preparing food and bringing what was then real goodness to the environment. Then I go off to a hippie school. This is in the late 70s. Start getting into granola and completely going nuts. What I realized then was, well, maybe the way I was raised wasn't completely correct. There is a different way to eat. I went to school with Gary Hirschberg, who started Stonyfield Yogurt. Jeffrey Hollander was also a classmate who started 7 Generations. So there was this whole natural foods movement. And the funny thing was, it was all about being a vegetarian. And I tried to become a vegetarian. Here's a slide of me trying to become a vegetarian, which lasted for about 10 minutes. But what I realized was, when you go to college, now they're really learning this in high school, it's all about understanding the broader story, the broader reality than kind of the one that you're raised with, and learning at some point to take responsibility and reconcile what you see is to the love of meat and the love of family, and also the broader picture of how to eat healthy. So that didn't work. And my first love was the declaration is like, you know what, I love meat, so go ahead and shoot me. There's nothing there, I came to a conclusion that I needed to fix that. Life's too short, as my line is, you've got to have some bacon in your spinach salad. You cannot, you just can't be that pure. And what hits here was life is a compromise. You can't just have it perfect, and you can't just ignore realities. So as soon as that happens, Mayo Clinic does a study on all of our brothers and sisters. None of us are heavy smokers or overweight. We all produce massive levels of cholesterol. It's just flowing. If I wasn't on Lipitor, I'd be like over 300. So 2 things. You start realizing life's short, and you better get serious, and you also better get a sense of humor, because otherwise you won't get through it. So in '87, it's like, I met this guy, Chris Ely, whose dad had a small smoked meat company. He said, well, what about doing a healthy meat company? And that's where we started. We got to work. So the 3 things you need to understand about healthy meat, and these are the only 3 things I really want you to remember. It is the use of antibiotics, the introduction in factory farms of antibiotics, which basically said to the animals, we don't care about your immune system. If you're sick, we will medicate. And the way industrial farming exploded when they started using antibiotics to take care of the immune system was they started using hormones and steroids, and they grew them faster. There's only 3 ways to get meat big and fast and cheap, and one is growing them faster. The second is cheaper feed. 80% of the cost of the animal is feed, so give them animal byproducts. That led to mad cow. It doesn't work. And then the third is crowding. You can get them all collapsed into a small space, medicate them, and you can deal with the disease. What's interesting is my kid's high school was just closed for H1N1. The three things they say for H1N1, the only thing you can do, because the vaccines don't work, is good sanitation. You know, wash your hands, watch where you sneeze. The second is don't crowd. And the third is eat a healthy diet. The only thing that, you know, of course kids, if they're loaded up with 7-Eleven Slurpees, are going to have a hard time thinking at school. But really the deeper issue that we have to address, and nobody really understands the immune system yet, and that's why they don't sell products around it, is if you eat well and you have a healthy immune system, you can be free in the world to do whatever it is that you want to do. The only difference between us, antibiotic-free and organic, is organic has organically grown grain. But the real key, and no nitrates, no additives, and sustainable and humane practices were also the tenets that we wanted to pull forward in the company we were doing. So as soon as you get started right, what happens? The house burns down. The whole smokehouse, you know, went up in smoke. And what happens is you give up. I thought the world was coming to an end. And everybody's had those days where you just want to give up. And no sooner that you hit the point where you want to give up, in our case, the deli phoenix arrives. And it's a weird moment in the entrepreneurial life, and all of you that are doing good works, I know you probably experienced this. You have this vision that you want to put out, and then all of a sudden you realize the vision actually comes to you. And the best part about that whole world falling apart was I realized this was much bigger than just me wanting a healthy company. The motto that we emerged with, you know, as we emerged victorious, was taste, truth, and trust. If it's going to cost more, it has to taste better, and you have to tell the truth. So a big thing for us is transparency. We believe people need to know where, in this case, where your meat comes from, how it's raised, how the animals are treated, what the farmers get paid, and how it's processed. So all of a sudden it got really big. It's like, oh my God, this is like healthy people, healthy planet. I was like, I can't believe this is actually happening to me. And the inflection happens when you come up with less is more. So it's the odd becomes obvious and the oxymoron makes sense. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm on a mission, damn it. I'm not just trying to build a healthy company that's profitable and does well. I really feel that there is a movement here that is much bigger than I am. At that point, the company was called Jugtown Mountain Smokehouse. So it sounded like we were distilling booze in Western Jersey. And all my friends were going, how's it going at Drugtown or Jumptown or whatever? It's like, this name is not working. So Chris, my partner, was driving along and he was on a bike and he saw Applegate Farms and we said, we're going to call it Applegate Farms. So there is actually a place called Applegate Farms, but it's not where I was raised. And now what happens? We have 300 farms around the world that we support. And if you want to understand this, you have to go, as Bob said, you have to go to the farm. The essence of what's happening, you've got to meet these farmers, you've got to meet these animals, and you've got to meet these families. If you want to understand the power of the movement, they will give it to you better than anybody else. And I feel so lucky to work with them, and it's creating jobs. We're putting independent family farms back to work. They don't have second jobs working at Walmart. They're working 100% of the time, and it's by consumers paying a premium and understanding what that's about. Part of that is paying the farmers what they deserve to get paid. So we come up with a great organic hot dog, America's healthiest hot dog. We take America's favorite food, which is traditionally gross and disgusting, and make it America's favorite food that is now healthy and sustainable. So what we would like to do in the school systems is work on a healthy turkey hot dog. I think Bob and the schools pay about 12 cents for a hot dog. Our hot dog, completely sustainable, no nitrates, no antibiotics, no hormones, is probably going to be about 18 cents. So that's about a 6-cent difference. I don't know what you can buy for 6 cents, but to me, we're going to make that work. The other product is a chicken nugget. So in the end of this whole journey, if you're really lucky, you get love letters from mothers saying thank you. And I've gotten those. And what they're also telling you, as soon as they say they love you for the products, they tell you what they want to do next, which I also appreciate. And what they're pointing to is school lunch. It is the feedlots that our children are forced through. And the change, you can tell by all the people here and the work that's going on here, it's going to change. It can't not change. And I'm just happy to be part of it. And then the final slide, these are my 3 girls and my wife who did all the paintings and my wife who wrote the story. Thank you.